Lieutenant Henry has had knee surgery, a bit of scolding from the nursing staff, and a short break from spending time with Catherine while he heals. But their affair continues and their infatuation with each other deepens. My name is Trisha Sulpizio. I'm your host for another episode of Tea and Bedtime Stories. In this episode, we'll continue reading Ernest Hemingway's novel, A Farewell to Arms. Last time we read chapter 17 in book 2, and now I'll continue the story with chapter 18. After the reading, I'll follow up with some quick facts and my impressions. So let's begin chapter 18 of book 2. We had a lovely time that summer. When I could go out, we rode in a carriage in the park. I remember the carriage, the horse going slowly, and up ahead the back of the driver with his varnished high hat and Catherine Barkley sitting beside me. If we let our hands touch, just the sight of my hand touching hers, we were excited. Afterward, when I could get around on crutches, we went to dinner at Beefy's or the Grand Italia and sat at the tables outside on the floor of the Galleria. The waiters came in and out, and there were people going by and candles with shades on the tablecloths. And after we decided that we liked the Grand Italia best, George, the head waiter, saved us a table. He was a fine waiter, and we let him order the meal while we looked at the people, the great Galleria in the dusk, and each other. We drank dry white Capri iced in a bucket. Although we tried many of the other wines, Frisa, Barbera, and the sweet white wines. They had no wine waiter because of the war, and George would smile ashamedly when I asked about wines like Frisa. If you imagine a country that makes a wine because it tastes like strawberries, he said. Why shouldn't it? Catherine asked. It sounds splendid. You try it, lady, said George, if you want to. But let me bring a little bottle of Margot for the tenente. I'll try it too, George. Sir, I can't recommend you to. It doesn't even taste like strawberries. It might, said Catherine. It would be wonderful if it did. I'll bring it, said George, and when the lady is satisfied, I'll take it away. It was not much of a wine, as he had said. It did not even taste like strawberries. We went back to Capri. One evening I was short of money, and George loaned me 100 lire. That's right, all right, Tenente, he said. I know how it is. I know how a man gets short. If you or the lady need money, I've always got money. After dinner, we walked through the Galleria, past the other restaurants and shops with their steel shutters down, and stopped at the little place where they sold sandwiches. Ham and lettuce sandwiches and anchovy sandwiches made of very tiny brown glazed rolls, and only about as long as your finger. They were to eat in the night when we were hungry. Then we got into an open carriage outside the gallery in front of the cathedral and rode to the hospital. At the door of the hospital, the porter came out to help with the crutches. I paid the driver, and then we rode upstairs in the elevator. Catherine got off at the lower floor where the nurses lived, and I went on up and went down the hall on crutches to my room. Sometimes I undressed and got into bed, and sometimes I sat on the balcony with my leg up on another chair and watched the swallows over the roofs and waited for Catherine. When she came upstairs, it was as though she had been away on a long trip. I went along the hall with her on the crutches and carried the basins and waited outside the doors or went in with her. It depended on whether they were friends of ours or not. And when she had done all that there was to be done, we sat out on the balcony outside my room. Afterward, I went to the bed, and when they were all asleep, and she was sure they would not call, she came in. I loved to take her hair down, and she sat on the bed and kept very still, except Suddenly she would dip down to kiss me while I was doing it, and I would take out the pins and lay them on the sheet, and it would be loose, and I would watch her while she kept very still, and then take out the last 2 pins, and it would all come down, and she would drop her head, and we would both be inside of it, and it was the feeling of inside a tent or behind a falls. She had wonderfully beautiful hair, and I would lie sometimes and watch her, twisting it up in the light that came in the open door, and it shone even in the night as water shines sometimes, just before it is really daylight. She had a lovely face and body and lovely smooth skin too. We would be lying together, and I would touch her cheek and her forehead, and under her eyes and her chin and throat with the tips of my fingers, and say, "Smooth as piano keys." And she would stroke my chin with her finger and say, "Smooth as emery board paper and very hard on piano keys. Is it rough?" "No, darling, it was just making fun of you." It was lovely in the nights, and if we could only touch each other, we were happy. Besides all the big times, we had many small ways of making love, and we tried putting thoughts in the other's head while we were in different rooms. It seemed to work sometimes, but that was probably because we were thinking the same thing anyway. We said to each other that we were married the first day, and she had come to the hospital, and we counted months from our wedding day. I wanted to be really married to Catherine, but Catherine said that if we were, they would send her away, and if we merely started on the formalities, they would watch her and would break us up. We would have to be married under Italian law, and the formalities were terrific. I wanted us to be married really because I worried about having a child if I thought about it, but we pretended to ourselves we were married and did not worry much, and I suppose I enjoyed not being married really. I know one night we talked about it, and Catherine said, "But darling, they'd send me away." Maybe they wouldn't. They would. They'd send me home, and then we'd be apart until after the war. I'd come on leave. You couldn't get to Scotland and back on a leave. Besides, I won't leave you. What good would it do to marry now? We're really married. I couldn't be any more married. I only wanted to for you. There isn't any me. I'm you. Don't make up a separate me. I thought girls always wanted to be married. They do. But darling, I am married. I'm married to you. Don't I make you a good wife? You're a lovely wife. You see, darling, I had one experience of waiting to be married. I don't want to hear about it. You know I don't love anyone but you. You shouldn't mind because someone else loved me. I do. You shouldn't be jealous of someone who's dead when you have everything. No, but I don't want to hear about it. Poor darling. And I know you've been with all kinds of girls, and it doesn't matter to me. Couldn't we be married privately some way? Then if anything happened to me, or if you had a child, there's no way to be married except by church or state. We are married privately, you see, darling. It would mean everything to me if I had any religion, but I haven't any religion. You gave me the St. Anthony. That was for luck. Someone gave it to me. Then nothing worries you? Only being sent away from you. You're my religion. You're all I've got. All right, but I'll marry you the day you say. Don't talk as though you had to make an honest woman of me, darling. I'm a very honest woman. You can't be ashamed of something if you're only happy and proud of it. Aren't you happy? But you won't ever leave me for someone else. No, darling, I won't ever leave you for someone else. I suppose all sorts of dreadful things will happen to us, but you don't have to worry about that. I don't. But I love you so much, and you did love someone else before. And what happened to him? He died. Yes, and if he hadn't, I wouldn't have met you. I'm not unfaithful, darling. I have plenty of faults, but I'm very faithful. You'll be sick of me. I'll be so faithful. I'll have to go back to the front pretty soon. We won't think about that until you go. You see, I'm happy, darling, and we have a lovely time. I haven't been happy for a long time, and when I met you, perhaps I was nearly crazy. Perhaps I was crazy, but now we're happy. We love each other. Let's please just be happy. You are happy, aren't you? Is there anything I do you don't like? Can I do anything to please you? Would you like me to take down my hair? Do you want to play? Yes, and come to bed. All right. I'll go and see the patients first. That concludes chapter 18 of book 2. So a few quick facts. Beefies. If you remember, I think it was back in chapter 12 when he was talking about where he would take her. When he was fantasizing about places he would take her, he mentioned Beefy's. It's a bakery in Milan, and it's located in the Galleria. If you remember, the Galleria was designed for Vittorio Emanuele II's, I guess to commemorate his reign as king of Italy. But it's a glass-covered mall lined with shops. It's nicknamed Il Salotto di Milano, which means Milan's drawing room. And it was built in 1965, and it has 2 arcades shaped like a Latin cross, and it's basically a glass-covered dome. I included another link in the description if you want to refresh your memory, but the Grand Italia is obviously another cafe in the Galleria. White Capri is white wine. It's grown in the Campania wine region in southern Italy, which includes the island of Capri, which is why they name it White Capri. Friso wine is a red varietal, and it's grown in the Piedmont region in northwestern Italy. Barbera is also from the Piedmont region. It's also a red wine. Margaux, when the waiter insisted on bringing him some Margaux, he was probably referring to Chateau Margaux, which is one of the oldest wines in existence, I guess. It's from the Bordeaux region of southwestern France. And I guess they've been growing grapes and making wine in that region for 1,000 years, which is kind of cool. And their current recipe has been relatively unchanged for like 350 years. So it's kind of like tasting history if you drink Chateau Margaux. And the swallows, when he said he likes to watch the swallows, those are little teeny birds. They're known as aerial acrobats because they had these little short fat bodies and these long extended like wings, kind of big fat long wings. And that allows them to maneuver really quickly. Like they can fly really fast, and they have a lot of dexterity, so they can hunt and avoid predators. And so they're probably really fun for him to watch. Very entertaining. When she was talking about emery paper, that's sandpaper, basically. I've used emery boards. I've never used or even seen emery paper personally. I think that'd be so weird to file your nails with sandpaper, but it was 1918, so you do what you gotta do, I guess. And she was right about marriage in Italy in 1918 was very complicated. You had to go before a civil authority and do the whole thing. Like in America, it's the same. When you get married, you have to go and get your marriage license from the court, and then if you want to get married by a member of the clergy, you have to, it's a whole separate thing. So you can just have a civil marriage, but if they wanted to get married in the church, he's not old enough, I don't think, because you had to be 21 years old to get married in the Catholic Church. So it wasn't necessarily mentioned directly, but it was alluded to, so I wanted to bring up enmeshment. Enmeshment refers to a relationship dynamic where the boundaries are blurred between individuals. Leads to over-involvement in each other's lives and a diminished sense of individual autonomy. It is usually characterized by a lack of personal space, emotional overdependence, and difficulty when you're making independent decisions. And when she was talking about how she is him and she has no other life other than his, she's really referring to the idea of enmeshment. I was watching a documentary about Queen Victoria of England and her husband Albert, and she was so enmeshed in that relationship that I guess she couldn't get dressed unless he picked out her clothes and told her what to wear. And he died, like, they'd been married several years and had like 9 kids or something, but she mourned him for like twice as long as they were married. Like, she had no personal self-concept outside of that relationship. So just to give you an example of what enmeshment looks like in couples, it's not a great thing. So my impressions about the chapter, I think at first it was kind of sweet that he had fantasized about spending a weekend with her in Milan, and I thought, oh, okay, cute. He finally got what he wanted, sort of. But it only serves to enhance his delusion about their future together. I know when we fantasize about a partner and then we somehow find a way to fulfill that fantasy, it can feel like kismet or providence or serendipity or something, like it's meant to be, and it just fuels more fantasies, and then we spiral very quickly. So I don't know, I was marginally hopeful for them when they tried to discuss their situation soberly, like when he brought up marriage, but I kind of lost it immediately when she started talking about how they were already married and that she and he are one. And then I'm glad she admitted that she's crazy, because she's clearly crazy. But she is losing herself in this relationship, and it's kind of depressing and, for me, a little infuriating personally. I can't stand seeing women like that. Or anyone. I don't like seeing men weakened by their relationships. I think they're supposed to make you stronger and better, not smaller and weaker. But that's just me. Maybe. Hopefully you feel the same way too. But her thoughts are just completely ridiculous. She just seems to have no identity outside of that relationship, just like poor Queen Victoria. And it really speaks to the trauma that she's experiencing around the death of her fiancé. And I think on at least a subconscious level, Lieutenant Henry knows that she's acting out on him, and I think that's why he doesn't want to hear her talk about him or mention it at all. It's ironic because that was literally the subject of their very first conversation, and now he can't stand it, and it's clear he's in denial. A part of him knows it's wrong to take advantage of her. I think all humans have a conscience, a superego, that tells us when we're doing stuff that's stupid or hurtful, even if it's in small ways. And he's not only betraying her, but he's betraying himself. Again, I sound like a broken record, but he just keeps doing it. So there you go. But he's so self-centered, and because he's young, and he refuses to allow himself to go there, I think, so to speak, meaning he just doesn't want to think about it. And to me, it seems like most males in my culture, rural experience, struggles with what's called normative male alexithymia. Alexithymia is it's a debilitating disease for individuals who struggle with autism. So it's basically difficulty identifying, describing, and expressing emotions. ours and others. So a person with alexithymia just doesn't regulate emotions or they don't understand their own emotions. So they have trouble expressing them, and because they don't understand their own emotions, they don't understand other people's emotions, the clear cues. And so it's really difficult for them. But for men of a certain cultural conditioning, right, we call it toxic masculinity or whatever, but when you've been conditioned in traditional masculine role socialization as a young man, you will be discouraged from expressing any vulnerability or showing your emotions, and over time you develop this alexithymia, the NMA version. And it's not, obviously, it's a subclinical form. It's not the, certifiable form of alexithymia, but it does have a tendency to create emotional challenges for men, and especially heterosexual men. They're the ones, all the research shows that they have the most difficulty accepting influence. John Gottman and his wife, I forget her name, but they run the Gottman Institute, and they're sociologists, psychologists, something, but they do a lot of research on whether or not you accept influence from your partner. And the heterosexual men have the most difficulty accepting influence from their partners, probably because of their normative male alexithymia and social conditioning. And they often, the ones that can't accept influence report lower levels of relationship satisfaction because they're carrying all that weight on their own. If you can really partner with your wife or your girlfriend or whatever, it lightens the load for the man. And so it's really tragic that these poor young men have been conditioned to think that they have to do it all on their own, and that I'm not going to let a woman tell me what to do. Well, good luck with that, dude. You're never going to be happy in your relationship. So there you go. Anyway, that's all I have for chapter 18 of book 2. So tomorrow I will read chapter 19 of A Farewell to Arms by Ernest Hemingway. Please join me for more teen bedtime stories. I look forward to talking to you again soon. Thanks for listening. And I forgot, all the references are in the description. Have a great evening.